How how are we? Hey everyone. To make up for last month, I'm starting on time this month. Great to have you here. Heather, how are you? Robert,
Fine.
you made it. Great to see you. Katie, welcome back. Kate,
It's
how good to see you there. You made it in too, finally. This is your
yeah.
third attempt.
Yeah.
Nan, hi. Sue,
Hi.
you. Laura, great to see you as always. Anne, hello. Wendy, how are you? Great to have you all here. Um, okay, so I'm in a little bit of a different setup than my normal setup. We have guests staying in the room that I'm usually teaching in. So I am running this practice session from my kitchen, but it's okay. We like to keep things very nimble and lightweight over here. So I'll be working from my kitchen today. Um, so as you already know, welcome to the Practice Hour. The Practice Hour is a series that I like to present in collaboration with my dear Leo Marchutz School of Painting and Drawing in Aix-en-Provence, France, where all of my art education and formative years took place. And also where, let me turn my volume up a little bit more. Also, where I happened to be last week, painting with the fine people there. I was in the landscapes just outside of Aix, in front of the Mont Saint-Victoire that Cézanne painted. And I thought, I could share a little bit of what I've done for inspiration. But I feel really lucky that in between my seasons with the Smithsonian, I have time that I can go do things in person. Some of you were at the practice hour I did at the National Gallery of Art in DC just a few weeks ago. And just last week, I just arrived Friday night. I was in France painting where I used to live. So I joined the Marchutz School for their spring landscape painting program. Okay, and I joined as an artist in residence, and the program consisted of us painting in the very footsteps and landscapes that Paul Cézanne worked in. So here is where we would go pretty much every day, and the Mont Saint-Victoire that he painted dozens of times is right there. We started working in the studio just to sort of get people familiar with the materials and then took them out. So twice a day, morning and afternoon, we would be working in the landscape. Here's me. I was working in watercolor most of the time, but here am I with a couple other students, other participants from the group. But the goal was to do one painting every morning and one painting every afternoon. And in the afternoon sessions, I was actually helping some of the students who were interested in watercolor, wanted to get their feet wet, no pun intended, with the medium. So I was around for that and got to do some of my own work as well. It's lovely working with you all online, but if you have the ability, opportunity, I highly recommend taking your practice outdoors, especially now that spring is springing and temperatures are getting warmer. Sometimes it's not about making the painting, it's just about having painting as an excuse to go outside. So here's one of the works that I did in the morning. I was sort of working on a house and this street here with the trees in front of the mountain. Here's another one that I did in the
Ooh.
afternoon. Oh yeah. Yeah, you like that, Mary?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was a really successful afternoon. The sun was setting, it was golden hour. I had been struggling making things way too complicated in the landscape because things outdoors, you have to frame it yourself mentally and sort of visualize what the composition will be before you start painting. So this is one that I did. But yeah, all in all, it was a great time with these lovely people. We had a group of 9, and I was the 10th as the artist in residence. But yeah, painting with them for 5, 6 days, twice a day in the landscape was just, I don't know, a very energizing time in the sun in the south of France. So just want to start sharing with you all some of the things that I do with the Marchutz School beyond this practice hour. If you are looking for, if you are looking for opportunities to, take your practice abroad and work alongside other traveling artists, I highly recommend you check out the programs that the Leo Marchutz School has going on throughout the year, abroad, in the States, online with me, in person, et cetera, et cetera. So the link is in the chat for you all to check whenever you get a moment. And without further ado, I figure, uh, since I've just been in the land of Cezanne doing watercolors, it might be nice to do a Sainte Victoire watercolor. All right. So this is what we will be working on for the next hour. Okay. A little bit understated this time. I remember just a couple weeks ago, um, I was really into still life. I'm still into still life, but I was really into still life, and I chose this Chardin still life that was quite dark, required a lot of layers. But since I have just been blasted with the Provençal sun, I figured we could do something a little lighter. All right. So feel free to get started. All right. Whether you're working in watercolor or pencil, that is perfectly fine, but this is the image that we'll be working on, okay? And there's a lot to learn from here. It's very likely if you're in this practice session, you've taken a class with me before, and we've talked about how to harness the light of the paper, okay? So this is going to be excellent practice for that, no matter what medium you're working in. Just a few guidelines and reminders. The practice hour is an opportunity for us artists to get some practice. This is not a class. I don't have a lesson planned. When working from a masterwork like this, the goal is not to make a forgery, but to have your own experience with the masterwork and practice putting it together according to whatever key relationships and essential elements you see. Make your own parallel image with your own touch. It can still be an opportunity to learn. I will be sharing insights about my process as the session unfolds. And if watching my work will benefit you this session, I recommend switching your Zoom meeting to side-by-side speaker view, okay? So I've got my desk here in the top right corner of your Zoom meeting. You can switch the view to side by side, and then with your mouse, move it to the right, and a vertical gray bar will appear that you can click and drag and make my desk area as large as you would like on your screen. Feel free to ask questions, okay? However, if you don't have something you'd like to ask or share, I ask that you remain muted to eliminate any distracting background noise. All right. And likewise, if you're in the zone and just want to work undisturbed, feel free to mute me. Finally, special thank you to our returning participants who regularly contribute. We really, really, really appreciate it. We are happy to offer this monthly online practice hour at no cost to the community. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation to support the mission of the Leo Marchutz School of Painting and Drawing at the link that I'm dropping in the chat right now. All right, boom. All right, so without further delay, I don't need my notes anymore. I don't need my introduction. I can full screen this, make it a touch smaller. Boom. All right, and I will get to work as well. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Go for that, and I'll change the angle.
curious, Nick, this is Laura. Is this one of your paintings?
This is not one of my paintings. No, this is a watercolor by Cezanne.
Oh, this is actually a Cezanne. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. This is
here you
actually
go.
Cezanne.
I gave you a compliment.
Oh, that's very kind. Yes, it's very, very kind. Absolutely. Yeah, when in my classes, I'm usually looking at no, actually, no, there's that pistachio tree. That's a watercolor technically. So, but I just don't show this one as much. Um, yeah, but yeah, no, Cezanne, not me. The way I'm going to go about this Cezanne, however, might be a little Cezanne-y. I got to paint with one of my friends in France just now, who's also a watercolor artist. And I mean, he does watercolor and oil, but um, he lately he's been doing a lot of watercolor, and I've always admired his work. And he tends to paint a little bit like Cezanne with his watercolors, just patches of color, and allowing the patches of color to sort of form the image. So he uses round brushes. So I'm pulling out a small round brush that I have, and I figure I'll try something similar. Um, I tend to be a little more constructive when I paint. Like I try to build forms and shapes and really sculpt a scene. At least that's what it feels like to me. And he is a lot more about just patches of color that assemble themselves into an image. So I'm going to try doing a little bit of the same thing here. It may look a little bit random, but I like the practice because I'm really impressed with some of the work that he does. So I'm starting with just a few patches of color sort of on one side. I'm not really thinking, I don't have a strategy, I'll admit, right now. I'm just trying something new. I really just want to allow my eyes to wander, okay? And whatever they fall on, whatever colors they stumble upon, I'll just focus on trying to mix that hue really well and getting it down and then repeat that process. It's a different way of going about things than I'm used to, but I do like stretching myself. Um, I don't really believe that you arrive at one way for that you sort of stick to forever. Um, that doesn't really feel right to me. So I like switching it up and trying new things for sure. Something I'm already noticing is, I mean, when I'm working in the powerful sun of the south of France, um, it certainly dries out my colors much quicker. So I can already tell, like here, you know, I'm dealing with puddles and having to navigate those that I wasn't used to just a moment ago in France. Oop. So something I'm noticing while I'm working this way is that it's really good practice in color mixing because I am just going from one hue to another and trying to figure out on my palette how am I going to get to the next color from one of the colors that I've already had. So it's really testing, sort of my intuitive map of the color wheel, if you will, in a way that I find really, really exciting. And the teacher in me is now wondering if I should bring this activity into some of my classes, particularly my color mixing classes. So just a thought, but another pleasant reminder how practice, play, experimentation, all that. You just never know what you're gonna discover, really. Something I've also started doing, I should have showed you before, but I've been, working on this painting so far where I am, and it gets to a point where in my watercolor palette, things just turn to gray. You've kind of switched around, gone around the color wheel a couple of times. Um, I strive to keep one of these big squares cool colors and one of these big squares warm colors, but it doesn't always stay that way. So I find that wiping, taking a moment and wiping my palette clean allows me to start with fresh colors again. That's something I hadn't done before, really. I would kind of just go, 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 go. But yeah, it's totally, totally fine to take a moment and wipe your palette clean, and then you can start building nice, greens and yellows again. Sometimes a little tipping of your paper is in order. I see some of these strokes and I see that they're darker in certain areas than others. So sometimes I like to just tip my paper, let the color flow to one end, and then, sort of pick it up with a dry brush or a dry paper towel. Tons of tricks I'm finding in watercolor the more I practice with it. And it's not really, it's one of the challenges of learning it. It's one of the challenges also of teaching it because there are so many ways to apply color and manipulate color. But it takes time getting used to the medium. And through experience and practice, which thankfully we are all here for, um, that's when you sort of encounter the contexts, the situations where you use some of these tricks. Everyone keep working. I'm just going to step away for one moment to use the restroom. I'll be right back. And for just all of your sort of time's sake, we have about 15-ish minutes left in the practice session. All right? Okay, I'm back. Just a little less than 15 minutes, let's say like about 13 minutes, all right? All right, everyone, less than 5 minutes remaining, say about 3 or 4. Okay, so, maybe take a pause, look at the whole image, see, for example, what needs to be addressed to bring a little more balance. For me, I'm looking right in the center of this painting right here. Um, and yeah, then we'll finish up the part you're working on, try to bring balance to your image, and we'll take a group shot at the end. Kate, take care. All right, cool. Gosh, I've been so steady and careful, and now that I know we're wrapping this up in just a couple minutes, I already feel a wee bit rushed, but that's okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's just about practicing and keeping our vision warm and keeping our hands connected to our vision. But really, all in all, I mean, I'm really happy with this new sort of way of painting I've been experimenting with in this session. But it really enjoyable. I love breaking down things into, my visual stimuli, the colors that I see, the light and the dark that I see. I like to get away from objects and, sort of appearances as much as possible. So this has been a really fun process in letting this image sort of unfold and emerge organically based on what I see. And even though there are certainly things that I need to develop further, um, this is really pleasing to the eye. There's something very calm and beautiful about all the hues that I've achieved here and the way that I've placed them. Um, yeah, interesting stuff. Looking forward to doing more of this on my end. We're having an unseasonably, not, maybe it's not unseasonable, but spring has sprung here in Dublin. I'll say it that way. It is warm and sunny, and right after this, I'm planning on having a tea outside with Alice. But I definitely have some afternoons coming up. And I haven't started my next season yet of classes, so this is a good time for me to get outside and paint. Every afternoon, a little walk around in the neighborhood, see what's there, and keep practicing. Keep looking, keep seeing, keep trying new things, etc., etc. All right, how about one more minute, everyone? I'm going to remind Rose to share with you all um, a little feedback survey on watercolor programs. I am always trying to, you know, listen and be open to feedback. I'm really always curious about what you are going through in your practice, what is challenging, what is difficult, what you think is missing from you achieving your goals. That feedback and input really helps me create more programs for the future. So there's a little feedback survey that I'm going to ask Rose to include in the follow-up email to you all. If you could do me a tiny favor and spend, less than 5 minutes just jotting down some things. I am in the process of writing some programs for this fall and next winter. Plan 6 months in advance, sometimes even a year in advance. But for my online programs, I am in a little bit of a writing phase right now, creating new things for us to do together for this fall and the winter. Okay, so I would really appreciate it if you could keep an eye out for that email and the feedback survey inside of it. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the image. I hope you all have enjoyed this Cezanne watercolor. And before we call it a practice session adjourned, let's take a quick little group shot of our work. I'll get mine nice and square on camera here. All right, everyone. Yeah, if you could hold up, what you've been making on camera. That'd be beautiful. And I'll make sure that Rose gets this shared out as well. Gorgeous mountains, everyone. Nice work, and really like the architecture you have in there. All right. Beautiful, Mary. I love what you've done. Look at that. Look at your mountain, how white and voluminous it is in the foreground. Gorgeous, everyone. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I
And thank you.
really love doing this today.
Oh, fantastic, Mary. I'm so glad you could join this morning. Anyway,
Oh, this
for the
is
rest
so
of
much
you,
fun.
good. For the rest of you, thank you for joining me as always. You have accomplished something this Sunday morning. You can now take it easy, just sit in front of the television, go outside, go wander and walk. That's all cool. But yeah, good job making some time for your practice this month. Oh, the next one will be a little bit later. Okay, we're gonna go the end of May. I forgot to show you that slide. I'll show you all real quick right now.
Is it different from what's on
No, it's the same.
email?
It's the same.
Oh, okay.
All those emails that you get, that's all current. But Sunday, May 25th, okay? So I got a little more travel, and then I'm starting my Smithsonian season at the end of April, and we're going to go all the way through May. So the next practice hour will be at the end of May so that I can invite all of those new students to join us as well. So keep an eye out for that from me, from the Leo Marchutz School. Speaking of, there's those 2 links to the Marchutz School in the chat. Click them right now, open the windows, and you can minimize them and check them out later for programs, workshops, painting trips that they're hosting, as well as if you would like to donate to support their mission. Thank you all dearly. This has been fantastic. I look forward to painting with you all again soon. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Write to me, and I will talk to you. I hope to see you in the next practice session, if not a class. All right. Ciao, everyone. Best to you
Ciao.
all.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.